Welcome to another training session video. Although this isn't exactly going to be a training session for these next 2 weeks. So for this coming session, which will be on Tuesday, March 2nd, we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. And rather than doing a ramp test or doing any one of those really hard anaerobic intervals, what we're going to be doing next week is a time trial. And for those that are not familiar with time trials, it basically is go as fast as you possibly can to cover that distance in the shortest amount of time. And for this week in Zwift, what is usually a very popular TT spot or TT course is the Tempus Fugit course. And it's very fast and flat. For those that are not familiar with the course, we did ride this in last week's easy session, but the course profile, just to give a little bit of an idea, is a total gain of about 52 feet for the time trial, or about 16 meters, with a lead-in of 2.4 km, or about a mile and a half, but we will include these distance here as part of the TT. And I'll explain seed times here in a little bit because next week is going to be pursuit. So the focus for this week is going to be more or less a time trial. I've kind of outlined the course. It starts off with a little bit of an incline of about 2% going into the loop. The loop, for the most part, is essentially flat. There's a little bit of a false flat coming into the finish here of about 1%. It's very minor, but enough to notice a little bit of a difference in power. And then it's flat all the way until we get to the Oasis, which again is another false flat. Once you get through that false flat, it's essentially flat, and then once you get into the town area, there's another little false flat, and then you do a loop around back in. You'll cross underneath the arch, and then you'll go around. I think it's actually the other way. I've marked this a little wrong on here, but you'll basically go around the loop, and after the roundabout, then you'll reach down here and you'll notice a TT, or like a sprint segment. That's about 500 meters to go, and then you basically hit the full gas and you go to the finish. So there's a couple rules that we'll want to have here for this TT. You can only use TT bikes, so no road bikes, no gravel bikes, no cyclocross, no mountain bikes, etc., unless you really want a challenge. Only TT bikes, because I want to make sure that when it comes to the finish times, it is a true ability, and we don't want to have drafting come into play here, at least for this week's iteration. You could go as fast or as slow as you want for this coming session, but you must be able to complete 10.7 miles in under 42 minutes. And I repeat that, you basically need to complete this course in under 42 minutes. I think that's really easy to do. 10.4 miles you could do that with about 100 watt. If you go only 100 watts, you complete this in about 38 minutes without issue. So please note that. And I personally have done this in about 27 and a half minutes. That's when I was the freshest, but normally I finish in around 29 when I go hard here. Mainly because I usually don't go and put in my fullest effort. But that's just me personally. And that was on a Canyoneer Road bike in Zwift. But again, the rules, and I'll repeat again, only TT bikes. So if you don't have one of those fancy buy-in TT bikes, you could use the Zwift TT bike. They're about all the same in terms of performance, so there's really not much you're losing out with a Zwift TT bike. But only ride a TT bike for this. Go as fast or as slow as you want, but again, complete in under 42 minutes. And the last thing here is you can choose to not do a warm-up, but warm-ups are recommended. And what is meant by the warm-up is usually about 10 minutes prior to the start of the event. That's when folks are starting to join on in. I recommend that you start spinning the wheels prior to hand, such that when you get off the gate, you'll go right away. That stated, a few other tips. Again, with the false flats, just be aware of a little bit of an incline, and so you want to regulate power accordingly. You do not want to go super guns blazing at the very beginning, mainly because you do have that incline, roughly about a third of the mile in, and then you'll start to hit it a little bit, which is about 2%. It's not big, but my recommendation is you want to put in some power there, but you don't want to burn a match. It's going to be, again, very fast and flat, and the goal is to be able to finish this in under 42 minutes, which I think for just about everyone that I'm familiar with that has recently joined in on workouts, that should be very doable. So, where do these times come into play? So, next week I'll be posting a video as it pertains to the pursuit element of this. So this first week is going to focus in on the time trial. The next week is going to do focusing on the pursuit element. And this is where your time trial times are going to come into play. So to explain it real briefly here, and I'll go into more details in next week's video, the details is you ideally will have the 42 minutes all the way down to the 27-minute finishers. What we'll also want to note on here is the gap between each of these times. And so what is basically meant here by 42 minutes is that you will start 15 minutes ahead of everyone else, or you'll start 15 minutes ahead of the 27-minuters. And then the 40-minute finishers will start 13 minutes ahead of the 27 minutes, 35 minutes, they'll start 12 minutes ahead, 10 minutes ahead, and shrinking down the time until everybody goes. And the idea behind this with this pursuit is that given your time trial time, everybody should be expected to finish at the finish line theoretically around the same time. That, of course, is going to be a little bit more logistically challenging as it comes, but I'll explain that more again next week. But the focus for this week is going to be pursuit with our time trial. And that stated, make sure that you are relatively rested for this. You don't need to be 100% rested. You'll probably want to be more rested when we get to the pursuit, because that's when things will really start getting interesting. But do rest up fairly well for this, because this is going to be 25 minutes to 30 minutes at your FTP for a lot of folks. Maybe 35 minutes at FTP effort. So this is a long, hard effort. So you do want to be fairly well rested and hydrated and fueled before doing this time trial. That's my recommendations. I'll have a 5 p.m. start and a 6 p.m. start, so there will be 2 events. They'll both last 45 minutes. And you'll see me do the first one. I'll do the first at 5 p.m., which will be my true effort, and then the second effort will be, for me personally, that'll be a zone 2 effort, for a low zone 2, kind of a pseudo recovery for me, and that'll be at 6 p.m. on the 2nd of March. So with that, those are the rules. Hopefully you caught all of that, but again, if there's any questions, please post a comment down in the comments section for this video. And if you actually like some of this content, go ahead and feel free to hit the subscribe button, and as well as hit the bell notification for future videos that I do. And with that, that concludes what will happen for this coming Tuesday's workout, or TT session. Come rested, come ready to race, and we will talk in the next video.